Neither pleasure nor pain should enter as motive when one must do what must be done. Doctor Ignorantia.
I am a maritime Canadian who identifies as a right-wing traditionalist. For YouTube purposes, I'll assume the pseudonym of Dr. Ignorantia. I study both biochemistry and anthropology at the undergraduate level presently. Over the past couple of years, I've become increasingly troubled by not only the surge of liberal propaganda in my nation under our new Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, but also the response I've seen from fellow Canadians that identify as conservatives or the right in general. Well, first and foremost, my own nation's troubles are my prime concern. I'm also concerned about the globalist rule that has slowly shrouded all our nations over the last few decades until we have found ourselves where we are now, most without any will or motivation left to do anything but take the black pill that has been almost forced down our throats. We have lost faith in what built Western society. Our principles, traditions, and faith that once defined us has now deteriorated through influence to the point that the care for the individual has far superseded that of the collective. Ironically, this has given people whose intentions are not virtuous the power to rule over most of our people. The population, subdivisions, and array of culture that once defined humans has been taken by this, burnt down until we are, ironically, all one. We have burnt the bridges for most people, especially in important positions such as academia, philosophical arguments, and that of scientific nature. We have decided that both religion and science must be separate. In Dilthey's Dream, the late anthropologist Derek Freeman wrote, quote, "Let us hope that those who become involved in the scientific study of values will not neglect the wisdom of their precursors, who, down the ages, have given concern to the nation, ever-changing as it is, of human values. On a wall of one of Canberra's high schools, someone had written, 'God is dead.' Beneath it, a juvenile wit has added the words, 'No, he's not. He's alive and doing a science course at the uni.' This experience, I have little doubt, would be edifying to many of the gods of which men have so far conceived. But I am constrained to wonder whether some of men's gods, if only in the sense of symbolic projections of species wisdom about adaptive values, might not have something of importance to tell some of the scientists." End quote. With this channel, I hope to cover topics I have found those that advocate for similar things that I believe in have failed to cover. Regardless of my personal positions, I will not try to convince you of my views, although through human nature, a bias of some form will most likely occur. I believe in presenting a variety of views and allowing an individual to form their own opinion through the development of dialectical consideration. I will be reading a variety of books and case studies on themes ranging from religion, anthropology, politics, science, and philosophy. If I find concepts, skills, or general information that I believe will contribute to the productivity of Western society, I will most likely cover these in video format. I will also dedicate an amount of time raising awareness to the social issues and historical value regarding my local area and nation. At some point, I am to collaborate with others that share similar views as my own to advocate for a better tomorrow for Western society in general. I am not leading a movement. I am not a leader. However, I wish to contribute to those that do possess the ability within them. You will find many that say it's already too late, that we should just lay down and accept the subversive ideological indoctrination is already past the point of reversal. There is an event in history that has always stood out to me that illustrates the future we face if we do this. It paints a haunting picture of what we, the West, are now facing. In 612 BC, after a prolonged civil war, Assyria's two former vassals, the Babylonians and Medes, conquered and destroyed Nineveh, the capital of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. The great city went up in flames, never to regain its former status. 3 years later, the same rebels razed Assyria's western metropolis, Haran, crushing the last-ditch resistance of the Assyria's last king, Ashurbanipal II. This event sealed the fate of the Assyrian Empire as it rapidly faded into history without a trace of an epilogue. The happenings of Assyrians after their empire fell is largely unknown. It is assumed by most that this was an event of complete and utter destruction, leaving no traces of the people that once reigned supreme over almost the entirety of the Middle East. Sidney Smith, an Assyriologist that has been described as the architect of Mesopotamian studies, once described the situation as such, quote, "The disappearance of the Assyrian people will always remain a unique and striking phenomenon in Asian history. Other similar kingdoms and empires have indeed passed away, but the people have lived on. No other land seems to have been sacked and pillaged so completely as was Assyria." Quote. Only 200 years later, Greek historian Xenophon accounts of his travel through what used to be the middle of the Great Assyrian Empire. He could describe his wonder at what have been considered somewhat modern architectural designs and towering structures. He had stumbled upon Nineveh, the famous capital of the late Assyrian Empire, just completely deserted. He had been so fascinated by the large deserted city, he had asked the locals about its history. They had told him it used to be inhabited by the Medes. Only 200 years later, the power and strength of once great empire was all but lost in history, only a ghost to be discovered over 1,000 years later in trace amounts. However, I refuse to let our empire, our people, fall without a fight. Let our waves make an impact to change the lives of our children or theirs in the generations to come. We won't fall in history without a sound. 200 years from now, people will know of our struggle and what we fought for.